I hope now it is visible. Yes or no? Just I shift on to full PowerPoint mode. Someone can answer, respond.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Okay. I'm not going in details. As per penalty approach is considered, especially in complete heat transfer, I'm summarizing it with one or two example. So one is you have to find out the reaction forces. The reaction forces formula is given by C into Q1 minus A1. Normally Q1 you are finding out from the KQ is equal to F equation. So A1 is the non-zero boundary condition, like a temperature is known. That's one formula. That is the last formula you have to remember. As per problem solving is considered, the reaction forces is given by minus C into Q1 minus A1 if it is R1. If it is R3, minus C Q3 minus A1. Then you have to take the maximum value of the stiffness. So already we have global stiffness matrix. Suppose global stiffness matrix having the value of, let it be 10 to the power 3 into outside the matrix 10 to the power 3 is the multiplication factor. It is into, let it be 20. For that you have to multiply by 10 to the power 4. This maximum Kij is global stiffness matrix. We have maximum value, let it be 10 to the power of 3 into 20. For that you have to multiply 10 to the power 4. That is almost like multiplying the stiffness value by 10,000 times. Then these are some of the example. So imagine if it is a two-noded bar element, or even if it is for a thermal element also holds good. So where instead of Q1 and Q2 in heat transfer problem, the temperature T1 and T2 will be given. So now this is the original, the equilibrium equation, the before application of boundary condition. We have the original equilibrium equation before application of the boundary condition. Suppose it is nothing but equation number 1 is nothing but a global stiffness matrix, because there is only one element here. So after application of the boundary condition, that is non-zero boundary condition. Non-zero boundary condition is nothing but at node 1, it is not fixed. So there may be small amount of slackness or looseness. There may be 0.1 or 0.2 mm displacement. Like I have given the same example of fan, even though it is mounted rigidly. So when it is rotating at higher speed, so slightly 1 mm or 0.1 mm fan can come downward. So that is nothing but your A1. So when for getting that small amount of displacement, let it be 0.1 mm. So you are mounting huge amount of the spring of huge stiffness C. Because of that, you are added additional spring. This is the original structure. We have added additional spring. Because of this additional spring, you have to add this additional spring stiffness into the stiffness matrix. So we are added additional spring of stiffness C in the at the first row, not first row, the first node. So hence you have to add the C value to K11. There are some cases where stiffness is suppose node 2 is fixed, then you have to write K22 plus C. But in our case, so it is K11 plus C, because your additional spring of stiffness C is added at node 1. In the similar way, because of addition of this stiffness, there may be some amount of reaction forces, or the additional force component is added at node 1. So already we have original force vector F1. For that you have to add add force component C into A1. C into A1 is nothing but K into Y. So we have the formula, standard formula, physics formula of the stiffness. The force is the K is equal to F by Y. So where F is our reaction force, F is equal to K, F become K into Y. So K is the stiffness. So in this case, stiffness is C and Y is nothing but a displacement A1. This is first case. So if you know, as per the problem solving of heat transfer is considered, if you know this example, so that is sufficient. So I have given some examples so that you can understand better, rather than studying the fundamentals of penalty approach. I have given one more example. So intentionally, myself, I have written some examples so that you can understand better. So now there are 3 nodes. At node 1, so Q1 is not equal to 0. There may be small amount of deformation at node 1, like our foundation, building foundation. At the time of earthquake, etc., there may be small movement. So along x direction or y direction, in most of the time it is maybe in the vertical direction because of the earthquake waves. So in such cases, what is the total the deformation stresses induced in the complete building may be required. So that means we have Q1. So Q1 is not equal to 0. So it has small value. There may be 0.00001 mm. In such cases, how to apply penalty approach? So as usual, you have to find out K1 for the element 1, and similarly K2 you have to find out for the element 2. Afterwards, as usual, you are getting the global stiffness matrix, global force vector, and global displacement vector. So now already this type of problem already you have solved. That's why after solving those some numericals, you can understand better. That's why now I am explaining this concept. Now we have the equilibrium equation. This is the equilibrium equation before application of the boundary condition. It is not just K11, it has some values. Already you have solved some problems on beams, bars, even trusses. We have equilibrium equation. Those equilibrium equations are written in terms of parameter K11, K12, etc. So after application of the boundary condition, you can see that this boundary condition. So we have A1, node 1 is fixed. So that means you are adding additional spring stiffness C. So as you are applying boundary condition at node 1, so you have to add additional spring stiffness C at node 1, or you have to add additional C to K11. So new original value of the stiffness at 1 location, Kij, that is nothing but K11 location is K11. Now you are modifying the stiffness matrix. That is first diagonal element you are modifying because you are applying the boundary condition at node 1. Suppose if you are applying the boundary condition at node 3, then you have to modify the stiffness value at 3 location or K33. So now as per this problem is considered, you are applying the boundary condition at node 1, hence you are adding additional stiffness C to node 1. Because of this additional spring, so now additional reaction force is also generated at node 1. That's why you have to change the force vector. So once you apply this boundary condition at node 1, so first row of the force vector you have to update. That normally referred to updation. We have the original value of force, that is F1. You have to update those value of F1. So new updated value become C into A1. C into A1 is nothing but a force term. That is nothing but restoring force or reaction force at node 1. Suppose same case, I think I have written some here. So you are applying the boundary condition at node 3. You are applying the boundary condition at node 3. Just you see don't see the first diagram. So see the second diagram. So node 1, node 2, node 3. You are applying boundary condition at node 3. So once you apply the boundary condition at node 3, you have to change the stiffness value of the diagonal element 3. So in our case, you are applying the boundary condition at node 3. So it has small amount of deformation A3. So A3 and Q3 are differs. If we have spring of infinite stiffness, then Q3 is equal to A3. But practically, we cannot manufacture or produce spring of infinite stiffness. Every material has some amount of deformation. One, it is subject to loading. Hence, there may be small difference between A3 and Q3 value. So hence you are applying the boundary condition at node 3. So hence you have to update or you have to modify K33 value. Original value of K33 is K33. Now updated value is K33 plus C. You are applied boundary condition at node 3. You have to change the force vector or third row of the force vector. Original value is F3. It is changed to F33 plus CA3. So now if it is same thing, if boundary condition is applied on both the sides, left hand side as well as the right hand side, or if boundary condition is applied at node 1, then K11 is updated. This is the original, the equilibrium equation. Now K11 is updated to K11 plus C. In the similar way, we are applied boundary condition at node 3. So third diagonal element is modified as K33 plus C. Original value is K33. So now updated value is K33 plus 1. Normally you are using the term updated. So already in computer, during in the pre-processing stage, all values, stiffness values are calculated. It is already generated. Now only you are updating the K11 value and K33 value. In the similar way, you have to update the force vector at first row, because you are applying boundary condition at node 1. You are updated the force vector at the first row. Original value of force vector is F1. It is updated to F1 plus CA1, and you are applied boundary condition at node 3 also. So now the third row of the force vector is updated to F3 plus CA3. So once you start doing problems, then you can understand better, especially heat transfer, you are applying boundary condition. Now in the last class, we were talking about 1D heat transfer element. So this part already we have discussed. You are familiar with the equation. So heat flux is given by, so most of the time you are writing Ka into dt by dx. Normally in your heat transfer equation, you are writing Ka into del T by L. Ka by L into del T you used to write. But in most of the finite element analysis, you consider very, very small strip of length dx. The length of the heat transferring element is, you are taking as a dx. L is replaced by dx. Now it is heat flux. Heat flux is nothing but watt per meter, the watt per meter square. So one is total heat transfer, capital letter Q. So capital letter Q is, unit of capital letter Q is watt. Then when you're talking about the heat flux, so it is nothing but your force and the stress. The force is Newton. The force per unit area is the stress. Stress is Newton per mm square. So in the similar way, when you come to heat transfer, we have total heat transfer rate, heat transfer, that is Q, capital letter Q. Now heat transfer per unit area is nothing but, so it is nothing but heat flux. Its unit is Newton, not Newton, watt per meter square. That you should know that difference. Now we have the for 1D heat transfer, we have the equation dq by dx, the rate of change of heat flux with respect along x direction. We are talking about dq is nothing but rate of change of heat transfer along x direction. You are considering 1D heat transfer. And one more assumption is you are going for the steady state equation with no heat source. I have given some example of heat source with heat source, like your iron box. So yeast comes under heat source. There is a heating coil. If you consider the complete engine as one system, so within the engine there is a heat generation source. That is heat. We have heat source where heat source is not equal to 0. But when you come to the turbine, steam turbines, only the steam turbine plant, there is no heat source. Heat source is at the boiler side. Boiler is the heat source where water is heated. But if you consider only the turbine system, there is no heat source. Only the heat energy is converted into some other mechanical or kinetic energy. But we are assuming that initial level, you are assuming that there is no heat. Do you have any doubts? I think someone is. If you have a doubt, just unmute and ask the question. Otherwise, don't unmute. I think I hope PPT is visible now. Everything is clear? Yes or no? PPT is visible and audible? Someone can respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, most of our derivations, so you are talking about the heat flux, not total heat transfer. So you should be able to differentiate between capital letter Q, because there are 3 equations in finite element analysis of the heat transfer. Unless and until you don't understand the basic equation, then those equations are maybe difficult, because 3 equations, at least you have to practice those 3 equations at least 3 times. So then only you get some understanding, the confidence, and we can finish those equations with minimum time. Let it be around 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But initially you may require 1 hour or more than 1 hour also to derive those equations. So now you should know each and every term. It involves lot of differentiation. It involves lot of integrations. Then you are applying these penalty approaches. That's slightly complex, but if you practice the day to day, then it will be easy. For that, those three equation for deriving those three equation, I am explaining the fundamental. So out of three equations are there. One is only conduction equation, finite element and modeling, or only conduction. That is one set of equation derivation. One more equation is conduction combined with convection. There is one more derivation. So one more is heat transfer through fins. Those three are a little bit bigger, longer, lengthy. Instead of saying longer, it is a lengthy derivation. Require more time also, but we can reduce the time by practicing those equations many times, so that in the examination you can skip some steps. Now for 1D heat transfer, the rate of change of heat flux along x direction. Now the horizontal direction is nothing but x direction is given by the dq by dx is equal to d square t by dx square, that's equal to 0. So now heat flows along the x direction. At left side of the wall, the heat flow is by conduction. On the right side of the wall, we can say three arrows, upward arrows you are shown, that indicate that heat flow through convection. So convection heat transfer is given by Q is equal to H into TL minus T infinity. Those equations are you are familiar, you studied in your heat transfer also. Again, one more AS is missing here. AS is missing in the sense you are finding out the convection heat transfer per unit surface area. You are, instead of saying your unit area, you are saying that convective heat transfer rate per unit surface area is given by H into this and this. Instead of AS, so AS comes to left side, hence it is a convective heat transfer rate per unit area. On the left hand side, there's a conduction. On the right hand side, heat is dissipated to the surrounding environment by convection. Now this is corresponding heat transfer. The finite element model is shown here. At node 1, temperature is T1. At node 2, because we are divided, because there is a, imagine the part of the wall is having different thermal conductivity. Right part of the composite wall is having different thermal conductivity. So because of the difference in thermal conductivity, so minimum you have to go for 2 elements, because left portion of the wall is having, because they are hatched in different directions. Left wall is having different K, right wall is having different K. Hence, your minimum you have to go for 2 elements. So element 1 and element 2. So temperature 2 and temperature 3 you have to find out. So once you know the thermal conductivity of element 1 as well as element 2, temperature at node 1 is known. So that is T0, but T0 is not equal to 0. So if T0 is equal to 0, then it comes under zero boundary condition, where you can apply elimination approach or penalty approach without much difficulties. But T1 is equal to 0. So T1 is equal to T0. Hence, you have to go for penalty approach or elimination approach also. But this is for non-zero boundary condition. What you have discussed from the last 1 or 2 classes, you are discussing about non-zero boundary conditions. So now, again, most of the derivation you are going for the natural coordinate system. At node 1, the x direction, one is global x direction. So one more is the global, not global, the z direction. The z direction is along x direction itself. So z value at node 1 is -1 and z value at node 2 is +1. So that is in terms of natural coordinate system. Most of the derivation you are going for the natural coordinate system or z coordinate system. Now you have to derive the shape functions or interpolation functions. Shape functions or interpolation function. So already we have derived interpolation function or Hermite function for the beam. There it is the slightly complex the shape function, because the bending pattern of the beam is not a straight line. So it is a curve. So minimum order required is cubical curve. But in the initial stage, we are assuming that to make the problems very simple, we are assuming that temperature variation within the wall is linear within the some thickness. That will be wall is in the sense. So we have internal combustion engine. So thickness of the internal combustion engine is that it be the average thickness is be around 5 centimeter. So the variation of the temperature within that within that wall may be linear or non-linear. But initially, we are assuming that variation of the temperature within the element or within the wall is linear. Hence, you are going for linear interpolation function in natural coordinate system. If you are familiar with how to derive interpolation function for the beam, then it will be very simple. There are 4 coordinates you have to remember. So A0, A1, A2, A3. It's a cubic equation, but you are going for the linear equation. So why you are going for the linear equation is, imagine temperature. What is the purpose of interpolation function is, just I am briefing it once again. Once you know the temperature at T1, let it be temperature at T1 is known. The temperature at T1 is, let it be 100 degrees Celsius. Temperature at T2 is, let it be around 500 degrees Celsius. So this temperature at T1 and temperature at T2 we are getting by equilibrium equation. So K into T, we have KQ is equal to F equation. But when it comes to heat transfer, so K is thermal conductivity matrix. So Q is replaced by temperature vector. KT is equal to, on the right hand side we have heat flux vector, that is nothing but Q vector. So once you know the temperature at node 1 by using that global equilibrium equation, or in already you have done so many problems, we can get the value of Q1 and Q2 for the bar element. So once you know the value of Q1 at node 1, Q2 at node 2 by using KQ is equal to F equation, we can find out the value of the displacement, in our case temperature at any point, by using interpolation function. This simple mathematical interpolation, once you know the temperature at node 1 and once you know the temperature at node 2, so we can find out the intermediate temperature once we have the interpolation function. Just one example before deriving, I have one plot. If you see here, this plot. So we know the temperature at node 1 by using KT is equal to Q equation. So by solving the equations, by solving the matrix after application of the boundary condition, imagine you are getting the value of T2 at node 2. So now suppose this point xi is equal to -1. At node 2, xi is equal to +1. We know the temperature at xi is equal to -1. We know the temperature at xi is equal to +1. So what will be the temperature at xi is equal to 0, at exactly at midpoint? So now we know we have to derive the interpolation function. So where temperature you are defining, so this function is given by N1 T1 plus N2 T2. So this is nothing but already finally we are getting one line equation, because this is a straight line. We are assuming that the variation of the temperature within the element or within the wall is varies linearly. Hence, you are getting the variation of the temperature is linear. Suppose once you know if you are drawing, if you are suppose you are doing it on the graph sheet. Suppose we can temperature at node 1 is 100 degrees Celsius. Temperature at node 2 is 500 degrees Celsius. We can take around 5 centimeter in the upward direction. We can mark this point. We can mark this point, and we can join this line, because we are assuming that the temperature variation within the element is linear. Then from 1 to 2, imagine we have around 2 to 3 centimeter. Suppose we want the temperature at xi is equal to 0 at exactly at midpoint. If you draw one vertical line, it will intersect this line. This line is nothing expressed in terms of N1 T1 plus N2 T2. So that point, the temperature we can find out. Or once you know the temperature at node 1, once you know the temperature at node 2, at any point within the element, so we can obtain temperature once you know the interpolation function or shape function for the this heat element. The derivation is easy because you are not going for a quadratic equation, or you are not going for the cubic equation. You are going only for the linear polynomial equation. That's why you are going for the linear interpolation function. So now temperature field is approximated using shape function n1 and n2. Shape functions are nothing but interpolation function. So in the case of beam, so n1, n2, there are four shape functions or interpolation function h1, h2, h3, h4. Because each node of the beam has 2 degrees of freedom. One is the transverse displacement and one more is rotation. There are totally there are 4 degrees of freedom. Hence, there are 4 constant a0, a1, the functions h1, h2, h3, h4. When you come to heat transfer, so degrees of freedom at each node is only 1. So degrees of freedom at each node is only 1 is nothing but at node 1, there is only one parameter, temperature T1, you have to find out. At node 2, so there is only one parameter, you have to find out temperature T2. These are the degrees of freedom. Normally it is referred to the field variable. There is only one field variable for heat transfer problem, that is field variable is temperature. So there is only one field variable at node 2, again that is the temperature T2. It is exactly similar to the finite element analysis of the bar, where node 1 is having only 1 degrees of freedom or only one field variable, that is Q1. In the similar way, node 2 is having only 1 degrees of freedom, that is Q2. In the similar way, we have T1 and T2 are the field variables or degrees of freedom. There are 2 degrees of freedom. Total, the degrees of freedom for the element is 2 degrees of freedom. Hence, we have N1 and N2. That you have to remember. So there are only 2 shape functions or interpolation function because there is only 2 degrees of freedom for the given element. But in the case of beam, H1, H2, H3, H4, there are 4 degrees of freedom. The 4 interpolation function or Hermite function because there are 4 degrees of freedom. V1, theta 1, V2, theta 2. But here T1 and T2. Hence, you are going with only 2 interpolation function N1 and N2. So now we can write it as T of xi. So T of xi refers to xi is so T1 is known. The T1 is known at xi is equal to -1. So T2 is known at xi is equal to +1. So at any point T, so any point within the element T of xi. So what is the value of T at xi is equal to 0? What is the value of T at xi is equal to -0.9? What is the value of temperature at xi is equal to 0.5, etc.? Those values we can find out by using this equation. One thing is, you know the temperature T1 and T2. Those temperature T1 and T2 we can calculate by using global equilibrium equation, like KQ is equal to F for a bar problem. But when it comes to temperature problem or heat element, KT is equal to Q. So now we can write T of xi is equal to N1 T1 plus N2 T2. So now this point is very important to understand why we require the interpolation function. T of xi is equal to temperature at any point within the element. So we have shown T of xi at within the element. Suppose we want the temperature here. What is the temperature? Only thing is, already we imagine we have derived N1 and N2. Only you have to substitute the xi value. By substituting xi value is equal to 0.1, we'll get one value. By substituting xi value is equal to 0.3, we'll get some other values. So that is the advantage of using finite element analysis. Or in the case of beam, once you know the displacement at node 1 and node 2, at any point within the element, we can get the displacement or vertical displacement by using interpolation function. But if you're going for the analytical formula, we have only analytical formula to find out the maximum displacement of the beam. The maximum displacement of the beam or vertical displacement of the beam will happen at midpoint of the beam. So for Ymax, we have equation. For fixed beam, there is one set of equation. For simply supported beam, we have one Ymax is equal to so and so. That is, those equations are available in design data and book. That is, as per your analytical method is considered. So one of the drawbacks of those analytical method is we can find out those deflection only at certain point, normal at midpoint. But the advantage of finite element analysis, so once you substitute that xi value, you can find out the displacement at midpoint of the beam, or we can find out the displacement at any point within the element by using those interpolation function. Same things hold good for the heat transfer problem also. At any point within the element, we can get the displacement temperature by knowing the nodal temperature and interpolation function. Hence, you are going for deriving the interpolation function. So now, so you have to derive the function n1 and n2. First, you are deriving the function n1. So we are assuming that the variation of the temperature is linear within the element. So in the case of Hermite function, if you are already practiced, then it is very easy for you. In the case of Hermite function, you are writing go for a0 plus a1 xi plus a2 xi square plus a3 xi cube. So their variation of the displacement within the element is cubic in nature, because after once beam is deformed, it is not a straight line deformation. It is a cubic, not even quadratic also. It is highly curved deformation. Hence, you have to go for third order the polynomial function. But we are assuming that temperature within the wall, within the wall of the furnace or within the wall of your intercombustion engine is varies linearly. Hence, you are going for the linear interpolation function. N1 is equal to a0 plus a1, right? Then it is very simple. Now there are two unknowns, a0 and a1. So there are these two unknowns we can find out by applying nodal condition, not boundary condition. You have to remember, not applying nodal boundary condition, by applying nodal condition. So what are nodal condition? Now we know the temperature. This is the same heat element. At node 1, temperature is T1. At node 2, temperature is T2. So there is one of the important property of interpolation function is, so let it be N1. Its value is 1 or unity at node 1, and its value is 0 at all other nodes. So that means you are talking about the N1. I think better to not to mix N2. So you are going for finding out, you are going for deriving the shape function N1. Its value is 1 at node 1, because N1 at node 1, its value is 1. And same N1 value is 0 at all other nodes. In our case, so N1 value at node 2 is 0. That's the property of the shape function. Same thing is shown given here. N1 value is unity or 1 at node 1 and is 0 at all other nodes. In our case, only 2 nodes. At node 2, N1 is equal to 0. Similarly, if you consider N2, so N2 value is 1 at node 2 and its value is 0 at all other nodes. If you come to, those are the nodal conditions or boundary condition. So now, if you consider nodal condition 1, if you see here, we are deriving the equations. At nodal condition 1, you are shown, I think. So now N1 is equal to 1 at node 1. So now you are putting N1, we have the equation, this equation, original equation. So N1 is equal to 1 at node 1. So now N1 become 1 is equal to A0 plus A1. So xi value at node 1 is minus 1. That means we have 1 is equal to A0 plus A1 into minus 1. That same thing is shown here. So N1 is value is 1 at node 1. You can see here N1 value is 1 at node 1. And at corresponding node, the xi value is minus 1. That's why A2 into xi is replaced by minus 1. Finally, we get 1 is equal to A0 minus A2. That's a one boundary equation, equation 4. We are referring to equation 4. So now, if you consider the same shape functions, so N1 is equal to 0 at node 2. N1 is equal to 0. 1 is missed here. So N1 is equal to 0 at node 2. Node 2 is nothing but zeta is equal to plus 1. So that means you have to come back to here. So N1 value is 0 at node 2 is equal to A0 plus A1. The value of xi at node 2 is plus 1. So that means value of xi at node 2 is plus 1. That's why 0 is equal to A0 plus 1. So finally we have two equations, equation 4 and equation 6. So by solving those equation 4 and equation 6, there are two equations in simple. There are two equations and two unknowns you have to determine. Those two unknowns are A0 and A1. Those A0 and A1 we can calculate. So A0 become 1 by 2. So A1 become minus 1 by 2. 1 by 2. Once you substitute, so you get N1 is equal to A0 is 1 by 2 plus N1 is 1 by 2 xi, 1 xi, I think this is a small mistake here. So N1 is equal to, finally we are getting 1 by 2 A naught is, this is minus xi. So finally we are getting 1 by 2 into 1 minus xi, because A naught is xi. So that means finally we are getting the value of N1. So N1 is equal to minus xi plus 1 by 2, or N1 is equal to 1 minus xi by 2. So that means in simple way, by applying nodal condition 1, you are getting one equation, that is equation number 4. By applying nodal condition 2, so you are getting one more equation, nodal equation number 6. But there are two unknowns and two equations. From that you are getting A0 and A1. So A0 value is plus 1 by 2, A1 value is minus 1 by 2. After substituting all those things, we are getting N1 is equal to minus 1 by 2. So now how? So N1 is equal to minus 1 by 2 is nothing but a equation of the straight line. We are familiar with y is equal to mx plus c. So value of mx plus c is nothing but, so m is, so if you split this, we'll get 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2 xi. So 1 by 2 is your c value, and mx value is, the variable is x is replaced by xi. So xi is your mx is, x is xi, and m is minus 1 by 2. So that means this is nothing but the equation of the straight line. Your N1 is nothing but a straight line. We are assumed that the variation of the temperature within the element is straight line. Hence, we are getting the straight line equation. 1 minus xi divided by 2 is nothing but a straight line equation. So now, so N1 is equal to 1 at node 1. This is highest value. This point we can get. And similarly, N2 is equal to 0 at this particular point. We can join this point and this point. Equation for this particular straight line is N1 is equal to 1 minus xi divided by 2. So now, once you know the temperature at any point, this vertical axis represents N, and horizontal axis or x-axis refers to xi here. This is the how the shape function N1 varies along the element is given by this diagram. This diagram also you have to write. In the similar way, you have to derive the function N2. So again, you have to go for, so N2 is equal to, you are writing as B0 plus B1 xi. Exactly similar to shape function for Hermite function for beam equation. So there it is more complex. It is very simple because there are only two unknowns. So you are having B0 plus B1 xi. So there are two unknowns, B0 and B1 are two unknowns. For those two unknowns, there are two boundary conditions, nodal condition. At node 1, so N2 is, because if you go for general property of the shape function, so shape function value N2 is 0 at node 1 and its value is 1 at node 2. Or in other way, the N2 value is 1 at node 2 and all other node it is 0. All other nodes refers to, here at node 1 it is 0. There are two boundary conditions. This is one boundary condition. At xi is equal to plus 1, N2 is equal to 1. It is one nodal condition. At xi is equal to minus 1, N2 value is 0. There is one more nodal condition. There are two unknowns, B0 and B1. By using those two nodal conditions, we can get just same nodal condition is applied. Nodal condition 1, at node 1, xi is equal to minus 1, N2 value is 0. If you substitute N2 value is equal to 0 is equal to B0 plus B1 xi, the xi value is minus 1. We are getting equation 3. In the similar way, at other node, the N2 value is 1 and xi is equal to 1. So then we are getting one more equation. If you reason this lecture, that is not sufficient. So today after finishing your classes, anyhow already notes is with you. So better to practice at least once or twice, then only it is easy for you. And so you can, when you're listening the videos, even myself, I read this, seeing some videos, listening some lecture, it looks very easy. When you start writing, you may get some doubts. That's why you have to practice this equation on the same day itself, especially in the heat transfer. So we are going slightly complex equation. These are the very simple equation as per your heat transfer analysis considered. So now, finally, after substituting all those things, so you are getting B0 is equal to 1 by 2. B1 is again you are getting 1 by 2. So now, so B0 is after substituting, we'll get N2 is equal to 1 by 2 into 1 plus xi. So 1 plus xi. So it is nothing but a straight line equation. At node 2, n2 value is node 1, n2 value is 0. That's the general property of the shape function. At node 2, n2 value is 1. So here we're getting a 1. And the variation of the shape function within the element is linear. You have to join this point to this point by a straight line. This straight line equation is nothing but n2 is equal to 1 by 2 into 1 plus xi. This is the straight line equation. It is exactly equivalent to y is equal to mx plus c. So m value is, c value is 1 by 2 and m value is again 1 by 2 and x is nothing but xi. This is the interpolation function xi. So what is the purpose of using N1 getting the value of N1 and N2 is, once you know the N1 value and N2, then once you know the equation for N1 and N2, and once you know the value of temperature at node 1, node 2, we can find out the temperature at any point within the element. Or, so imagine one end of the furnace, inside furnace temperature is known, that it be around 100 degrees Celsius. The outside furnace temperature, let it be thickness of the furnace is 10 centimeter. At outside temperature, also you are getting from finite element equation, like processing stage, you are getting T2. So at the, imagine total thickness of the furnace is 10 centimeter. At 1 centimeter thickness, what is the temperature? At thickness 2 centimeter, at a distance of 2 mm from the inside wall of the furnace, what is the temperature? And what is the temperature at the 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 5 centimeter, 6 centimeter? No need to calculate all those things by creating different nodes. Already you have created 2 nodes. One is for inside surface, one more node for outside surface of the furnace. By using those interpolation function, we can get any value by using this equation. That's the purpose of having interpolation. That's why it is given the unknown temperature field within an element is interpolated by the shape functions n1 and n2. Now you have to go for derivation of B matrix. Then someone can tell what is B matrix for the bar element? What is B matrix? What is B matrix? Already you studied, you have used those B matrix for getting the value of stresses and strain. The B matrix is nothing but a strain displacement matrix. The epsilon is equal to B into Q. So epsilon is strain and B is the B matrix. And on the right hand side Q, so Q is the displacement vector. On the right hand side we have the displacement vector, left hand side we have the strain. So from the displacement vector, so we can get the value of strain. That is nothing but the matrix which relates the displacement and strain is referred as a B matrix. So by using, already you have done many problems on bars, so we are getting the displacement. To get the stresses, so we know that E is equal to, stress is equal to, sigma is equal to E into epsilon. We require epsilon. So to get the epsilon, so we have the formula, epsilon is equal to B into Q. So Q is the displacement vector, already it is known. And once you know the B matrix, we can get the strain value directly from the displacement. In simple way, from KQ is equal to F, you are getting the displacement. For finding out the stresses, we require strain. Those values of the strain, so we can get from the strain displacement matrix or B matrix. That is the purpose of using B matrix. So in the similar way, so we require BT. I'm putting subscript T. That is B temperature matrix. It is related to thermal. That's why I'm putting B of T. B of T matrix for heat transfer element. Again, same things hold good. So at node 1, temperature is T1. At node 2, temperature is T2. And xi value at node 1 is known. Xi value at node 2 is known. So this is nothing but a heat element. Similar to bar element or truss element, it is referred as heat element. This equation already we have discussed. So temperature at any point within the element is given by N1 T1 plus N2 T2. The same thing we can write it in the matrix form or vector form. So this is interpolation vector N1 and N2. So instead of displacement vector, we have temperature vector in the case of heat transfer. Instead of having displacement vector Q1 and Q2, we have temperature vector T1 and T2. This is interpolation vector. So now N1 is function of xi, because already we have derived N1. N1 is equal to 1 minus xi divided by 2. It is N1 is a function of xi. N2 is also a function of xi. So temperature at any point within the element is also a function of xi. Here, the midpoint temperature may be different. At leftmost end, the temperature may be different. On the right side part of the element, temperature may be different. Hence, you are writing temperature is a function of xi, or it is nothing but you are saying the heat transfer is heat transfer is a function of x, and x changes, heat transfer rate also changes. So that's why you are writing N1 is equal to 1 minus xi divided by 2, N2 is equal to 1 plus xi divided by 2. So same N1 N2 equation holds good for the bar element also. Now you are substituting the value of, we have this equation N1 and N2. So once you know the value, already we have derived the equation for N1 and N2. So once you know the value of N1 and N2, so now substitute the value of N1 and N2. So then you will get this equation. This is the equation for temperature in terms of xi. I hope those who are entered, I think those who are attending the class, they entered your USN number. I think some few students, they entered the USN number, they left the session. So it is your wish. So you should be sincere to yourself, not to the college or not to the department or not to the professors or teachers. So finally you join college, you join mechanical engineering, for getting degree, that's the one part, and getting knowledge, that's the second part. For sake of attending the session, if you just attend, and if you after sometimes if you in between, if you leave by putting your US number, etc., so finally you are the loser. You have to remember, not you are not the loser in the long term. So you may get the job, or you may get the first class, or you may get the distinction, whatever it may be, but you may lose some opportunities. Instead of getting after 5 years, instead of getting 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs per annum, you may end with 7 lakhs per annum or 5 lakhs per annum. Instead of getting 5 lakhs per annum, you may end with 3 lakhs per annum or 4 lakhs per annum. That will be happen. Those differences you come to know after 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, 20 years. After 20 years, some your own friend, maybe your own class, he may be building second, having 2 or 3 houses. But some your own batchmates maybe struggle to pay rent or paying the advance for the houses. So those two things will happen after 5, 10 years or 15 years. Then only you will see the differences. So be among yourself. Just be sincere to yourself. Not I don't expect sincere to me, but it is we expect. But first thing is you should be sincere to yourself. Those who are really attended the session, only those students enter the USN number, not just for sake of attendance. Don't just log in, enter the session and just enter your USN number, and sometimes in between don't leave the session. So okay, I think if you continue, what will happen is tomorrow you don't get you don't get continuity. So tomorrow you derive the B matrix for the heat transfer element or heat element. You are starting tomorrow. You are starting from here. We have equation for T in terms of xi. From that you have to get the B matrix. We'll continue tomorrow. If you have any doubt, we can discuss now. But this derivation you practice. If you